Welcome back to Reaper Minis TV. Before we get back into talking about how to play Warlord, we're going to unbox the new Dungeon Horror set. Hello everybody. Here we have Reaper's Dungeon Horrors set that we're going to unbox. And you can see on the front, color picture with Reaper's artist's painting of the 6 creatures you get in the box. On the back, black and white pictures, and you should still not eat these, just like the other set. And we get rid of the shrink wrap. We have color flyer for the picture of the creatures. Back one. Our box sleeve that has Warlord and Cav adverts on them. On the box itself, more Reaper information. More Cav, and then on the inside we open up and we have a couple layers of foam and several pieces. More foam, more pieces, and more foam and more pieces. Alright, so we have lots of bits and pieces and parts in the set, and we'll look at each monster individually in just a second. Okay, the first figure that we'll look at is this Eye Beast or Eye Tyrant, and everybody who plays D&D knows that this would make a perfect beholder. You can see he goes together in 3 pieces. You've got the bottom piece with some tentacles on it, and that connects to the base. He's got a big tongue hanging out there. And then the top half is made up of 2 sort of hollow pieces, each with eye stalks on it, and then the one central eye up front with several teeth down below here. And it goes together pretty easily. Next up is a charnel grub. And again, if you're a D&D player, you probably will think like I do that this makes a perfect carrion crawler. Comes with the main segmented body here with the head and some pincers on top, and you get 6 kind of tentacles that glue on, and they glue on around the head and you can bend them. I have one that I've had for a while that I've just not really gotten around to totally painting yet, but I've put mine on a large round base. Alright, here we have the only single piece miniature in this set. It's a slime and needs a little bit of cleaning. You can see some little flash on the edges here, but you could paint it up as any slime color for D&D. If you want green slime or even use it as a pudding, it would be just fine. This has not been released yet on its own as of the day I'm recording this, so the only way right now to get this piece is in the Dungeon Horrors set. This next piece is also unreleased outside of the Dungeon Horrors set, and 4 pieces make up the Brain Horror, and I kind of look at this guy like I would an Intellect Devourer in D&D. It's got a very large head that fits on the main part of the body. Got a row of teeth up front here, some tentacles down below, and a spinal column going down to the base. And you can see it fits onto the bottom half of the body on a peg. And then you have 2 large tentacles that are going to glue on and reach out and touch someone, but also unavailable outside of this set right now. The next figure is the Dung Monster. And I've been playing D&D for over 25 years now, and I've heard what I would use this for mispronounced or pronounced differently very many ways. I've heard it called an Odig, an Odiug, and I just did some research and found that Golgurtha is also another name for this monster. But I call it an Odig, and you can see here the bottom part of the monster. It has 3 legs and almost 4 at the back. This last one is almost split into two different feet almost. Hollow on the inside, and then this part here fits on top, completes its mouth, and then you have these two big tentacles that are going to go on either side of the miniature. The last figure in this set is my favorite, and it's got two pretty large pieces here, and it's kind of hard immediately to see how these are going to go together. But you have a top piece and a bottom piece here, and this is what Reaper is calling the faceless horror, and I look at it as a gibbering mouther. And I've got one of these that I've already painted up, and I'll show you in just a second. But along the body, you have more than I can count right now. Mouths and eyes, and it just looks like a big bloody mess. Now there's also on the inside the same kind of texturing and detail, and you can sort of see it down there at the bottom. There's a skeleton inside. You'll be able to see it more in a minute when I show you my painted one. Here's my painted version of this model, and it just does look like a real nightmare, a horror show. And you can see all the different mouths there and the eyes. And then on the inside, if I can angle it right, you can see the skeleton down in there. So whoever his last victim was is pretty much digested at this point. This was a really fun model to paint. I've had it for a while before the Dungeon Horrors set came out, and I painted it separately in two different pieces. I didn't put it together, painted each piece and then put it together. So very cool model, very different, but could definitely be used in Call of Cthulhu or D&D. Just excellent model here. Now the whole Dungeon Horrors set is going to set you back $39.99 or $40. And the two models that haven't been released yet, I don't know what they would cost or are going to cost normally, but the other four models come out to about $50 and change if you buy them separately. So if you need to stock a dungeon and you're going to pick up some of those monsters anyway, this set itself ends up costing you less and you get more figures.
Okay, everybody, we're going to get back into learning the rules of Warlord and back into actions and how they're used. Something you should keep in mind as we're talking about actions is when you activate a troop and then individual models within that troop, no model can use the same action more than once in a given turn. We're going to start off with the move action. Every model has an MOV rating on its data card. You probably remember this from a couple episodes ago. As models take damage, the amount they can move is going to get reduced. Some models have special modes of movement, like flying or hovering or burrowing, but we're not going to get into those specifics right now because those are really more under special abilities rather than the actual action itself of moving. Okay, here we have a small group of beastmen and a leader that are going to be trying to move up and engage this ogre over on the right hand side. Now, each beastman has a move rating of 7. They're uninjured, they haven't taken any damage, so they haven't been reduced at all, so they can move 7 inches forward. You always want to measure from the same point on a miniature starting to ending. So here I'm measuring from the front of the base at the beginning of the movement to the front of the base at the end of the movement. They are each moving 7 inches forward. There are some things to remember about moving. When you're moving your models, you have to have enough of a gap between terrain to be able to move your model without overlapping into the terrain. If there's not enough room, you can't move through there. Also, enemy bases will obstruct your movement in the same way that terrain does, but friendly bases don't. You can move through friendly models without a problem as long as you don't end up overlapping bases once you've completed the move. When you're using a regular move action, you are not allowed to get into base-to-base contact with enemy models. To do that, you have to use a charge action, and we'll get to that later. You can use a move action to try to remove yourself from base-to-base contact with models that are on the same or larger size base than you. It requires a discipline check, and if you blow it, not only have you wasted the move action, you're also now shaken, so you're more likely to get beat down when it turns to their activation. And as you'd expect, terrain does impact your movement, and generally things like moving uphill or through woods or through water is going to slow you down some. Alright everybody, that's all the time we have for this episode. I'll see you next time.